My knuckles are white against the steering wheel, the Colorado sun glaring mockingly off the asphalt. 25 years old, and I feel ancient, brittle, like one wrong move will shatter me into a million pieces. This throwaway account, this raw spill of words onto the void of Reddit, is all I have left. It's a digital scream into the silence that has swallowed me whole. My name is Liam, or it was Liam. I traded that identity for dust and exhaust fumes months ago, leaving the mountains for the concrete jungle of Houston. But the mountains, they linger, a jagged, aching memory in my chest. Growing up in Evergreen felt like living in a goddamn Norman Rockwell painting gone wrong. Picture this: the sprawling ranch house, the manicured lawn, the two-car garage, the simmering resentment beneath the surface. My brother, Ethan, he was the masterpiece, Mom's prized, glittering gem. From the moment he could drool, Ethan was special. Talented, artistic. My dad would roll his eyes when Mom would gush about how Ethan could turn a crayon scribble into a modern masterpiece. Me? I was the workhorse, the dependable one. Summer vacations meant sweating my ass off working construction with Uncle Frank. Ethan got to explore his passions, which translated to getting high in the basement and pretending to be a SoundCloud rapper. Mom always had an excuse ready. Ethan was sensitive. Ethan needed creative space. Ethan was finding himself. Meanwhile, if I dared to complain about my aching back after a 12-hour shift, I was lazy, entitled, and needed to learn the value of hard work. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't a saint. I loved football, tearing around in Dad's old truck, the smell of motor oil and grease. But I was always judged, measured against Ethan's nebulous potential. He could literally trip and fart, and Mom would declare it an act of artistic expression. My sister Chloe was the brain. Bookworm, straight-A student, Dad's confidant. They shared a quiet understanding, a bond built on intellectual pursuits. She'd help him with the crossword, I'd hand him the wrench. It was a kind of balance, I guess. Except that balance always tilted in Ethan's favor. College was where I thought I'd finally break free, where I'd finally win. I crammed my way through a civil engineering degree at CSU, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the stubborn refusal to be a failure. I kept working construction on weekends, dodging crippling student loans. Ethan lasted 2 semesters at community college before dropping out, declaring the system too oppressive for his artistic soul. Mom bought it, of course. I landed a solid job at a commercial construction company right after graduation. The pay was decent, the work was honest. That's where I met Amelia. She was doing her student teaching at the elementary school, next to one of our job sites. I'd see her during lunch breaks, surrounded by giggling kids, her smile as bright as the Colorado sun. One day, a stray soccer ball rolled onto our site, and I brought it back. We started talking, and, God, I thought she was different. She was studying to be a teacher. She loved kids. She came from a good family. Everything I thought I wanted. Mom adored her. Looking back, that should have been the first blaring klaxon, the flashing red light I ignored. Amelia could do no wrong. Dinner invitations piled up, even when I was buried at the site. Amelia and Ethan would spend hours locked in conversations about movies and music. Mom would beam, "It's so nice you two get along so well," like she was personally orchestrating some grand symphony of domestic bliss. After 3 years, I proposed. Last December, I'd meticulously planned it, a fairy tale proposal in the snow. The spot up in the mountains where we had our first real date. Down on one knee, heart hammering, the world holding its breath. She said yes, and I genuinely believed I had it all figured out. We even put a down payment on this quaint little house near my parents. Amelia talked about wanting at least 3 kids, raising them close to family. "Your mom will be such an amazing grandmother," she'd say. The signs were there, weren't they? Obvious as a punch in the face. The way Amelia always found excuses to hang out at my parents' when I was working weekends. The inside jokes with Ethan that I didn't understand. Mom's weird comments about how alike they were, how they just got each other on a different level, but you never want to believe it. You don't want to believe that the people closest to you, the ones you trust implicitly, are capable of such profound betrayal. I remember this dinner, a month before the explosion. We were all gathered at my parents' place. Amelia was telling some story about her class, and Ethan finished her sentence perfectly, flawlessly. They both burst into laughter, a shared moment of pure, unadulterated connection. Mom sat there, a strange, satisfied smile plastered on her face. Dad and Chloe exchanged a quick, almost imperceptible look across the table. But I was too busy thinking about the damn concrete schedule. God, I was so blind. It was a Tuesday in April. I remember it vividly because we were supposed to pour the foundation for a new office building. The supplier screwed up the delivery, pushing everything back. My foreman, bless his grizzled soul, told me to take the afternoon off. Normally, I would have stayed and caught up on paperwork, but I thought, hey, maybe I'll surprise Amelia with lunch. She was always saying how I worked too much. I drove home around 1:00 p.m. Ethan's beat-up Jeep was parked in our driveway. That rusty piece of junk Mom and Dad bought him for his 21st birthday, even though he'd already totaled 2 other cars. Should have known something was wrong right then. He was supposed to be at his part-time job at the music store, his latest career path that Mom was subsidizing. I figured maybe he was on lunch break too, coming to tell Amelia about his latest brilliant business idea, or whatever bullshit he'd concocted that week. The front door was unlocked. I could hear music coming from upstairs. All of Me by John Legend. Amelia and I's engagement song. Fucking ironic, right? Clothes were scattered up the stairs. Ethan's ratty band t-shirt. Amelia's favorite teacher sweater. The one I'd bought her for Christmas. You know, that moment in movies where everything goes silent, where time slows down to a crawl? That's exactly what happened. I stood there, staring at that sweater lying there on our stairs like a neon sign pointing to the horror unfolding in our bedroom. I'm not going to describe what I saw when I opened that door. You can fill in the blanks. But here's the part that really gutted me. They didn't even notice me at first. Just kept going, oblivious, lost in their own little world of lust and betrayal. When they finally saw me, Ethan actually had the balls to say, "Oh, bro," like he just spilled a beer on my couch. Amelia started crying immediately, pulling the sheets around herself, chanting, oh God," like a broken record. Ethan just sat there, looking at me with this weird mix of guilt and, I don't know, relief? Like he was almost glad it was finally out in the open. I didn't say anything. Didn't scream. Didn't throw a single punch, though God knows I wanted to. I just turned around, walked downstairs, and sat in my truck for about an hour. They both came out eventually. Ethan practically sprinted to his Jeep, his face a mask of pathetic guilt. Amelia stood on our front porch in her robe, mascara streaking down her face. I waited until Ethan sped away. Then I went back inside. How long? That's all I asked. She tried to dodge the question at first, talking about how things just happened and how she never meant to hurt me. I just kept asking how long. Finally, she broke. 2 years. 2 years. Since right after I started taking those weekend shifts to save for her ring. All those Saturdays I spent working overtime, thinking I was building our future. She was with him. Every time she said she had to grade papers or work on lesson plans, she was with him. When she went to my parents' house to help Mom with gardening, yeah, you guessed it. The worst part? She actually tried to explain herself. Sat there on our couch, the couch I'd spent 3 paychecks on because she said it would be perfect for our future family, and told me how she developed feelings for Ethan over time. How they had this deep connection through music and art that she and I never had. How she still loved me but was in love with him. I told her she had until the end of the day to get her stuff and get out. She started crying again, saying she needed more time, that we should talk about this. I just walked out, drove to Home Depot, and bought new locks. By the time I got back, she was gone, but she'd left a note. Still have it somewhere, buried in the wreckage of my past. 5 pages of handwritten drivel about how sorry she was, how she never planned for this to happen, how Ethan made her feel understood in a way I never could. I called my boss, told him I needed a few days off, spent the next 48 hours changing every password I had. Bank accounts, social media, everything. Blocked both their numbers. The only reason I even knew what happened next is because Chloe, bless her heart, told me later. Apparently, Amelia went straight to my parents' house, found Mom in the garden, of course, and broke down crying, confessing everything. And what does my mother do? Hugs her, tells her everything happens for a reason, and that maybe this is for the best. Even made her stay for dinner. My mother made my cheating fiancé dinner the same day I caught her sleeping with my brother. Ethan showed up too, probably after Amelia called him. Had this whole speech ready about how they didn't choose this, how love just happens, how they wanted to tell me but didn't know how. Mom sat there, nodding along like this was some Hallmark movie about star-crossed lovers. Dad just stared at his plate. Chloe stormed out. Amelia moved in with her parents initially, but within a week, she was spending every night at my parents' house, in my old room, with my brother. And Mom was just okay with it, actually seemed happy about it. Later, I found out she'd been encouraging them, telling Ethan how Amelia was more his type, telling Amelia how alike they were. Meanwhile, I was working 60-hour weeks, trying to save up for a house, for a wedding, for the future I thought we were building. The worst part? Mom started suggesting that maybe this was all my fault. You were always so focused on work, she'd say. Or Amelia needed someone who could understand her creative side. Like my crime was working hard to build a life instead of sitting in the basement smoking weed and finding myself like Ethan. Then this supervisor position opened up at our Texas branch. The pay was better, significantly better. And honestly, I needed an escape plan. The day I heard about it, I just found out Mom had helped Amelia move some of her stuff into Ethan's room. My old room. The room where I'd spent countless nights studying while Ethan was out partying. The room where I'd planned my whole future with Amelia. And now they were sleeping in there together. With Mom's blessing. I didn't tell anyone about the job offer at first. Kept it to myself. Watched my family bend over backwards to accommodate the people who'd betrayed me. Chloe was the only one who seemed to see how fucked up it all was. But even she was starting to crack under Mom's pressure. Maybe we should try to understand their side, she said one day, not meeting my eyes. That's when I knew. I had to get out. But before I could tell anyone about moving, Thanksgiving happened. Oh boy, did it happen. I walked into my parents' house, and there they were. Ethan and Amelia sitting at the kitchen table like nothing had happened. Amelia was wearing this sweater I'd bought her last Christmas, looking all cozy and at home. Ethan had his arm around her chair, and Mom was beaming at them like they were the royal couple. The moment I walked in, everyone went quiet. You know that silence? The kind that's so thick you could cut it with a knife? Yeah, that? Then Mom starts this rehearsed-sounding speech about healing as a family and learning to forgive. Dad just sat there, nodding like a dashboard bobblehead. And Chloe, God, Chloe, she was sitting next to them, actually sitting with them, looking at me with these guilty eyes. That's when Mom dropped the bomb. She'd invited Amelia's parents too. Wanted to bring the families together since Ethan and Amelia were getting serious. Getting serious? Like they hadn't been sleeping together behind my back for 2 years? Like they hadn't destroyed every future plan I had? After seeing Ethan and Amelia sitting there at my parents' table like they owned the place, I just broke. You know that moment when everything becomes crystal clear? Like when you're drunk and suddenly get sober in an instant? That's what happened. I walked out without saying a word. Mom was calling after me, something about family and healing and whatever other platitudes she'd rehearsed. I just kept walking, got in my truck, and drove to McDonald's. Sitting there eating a Big Mac on Thanksgiving sounds depressing as hell, right? But honestly, that sad meal in my truck was better than watching my family pretend everything was normal while they passed the gravy to the people who destroyed my life. While I was sitting there, surrounded by the only other people sad enough to be at McDonald's on Thanksgiving, I started making a list on my phone. Everything the first needed to do to disappear. Not like witness protection disappear, but make this entire situation disappear. The Texas job was already lined up. My boss had been practically begging me to take it. The company was expanding like crazy down there, and they needed someone with experience running major projects. First thing I did was go to the bank the next morning, opened a new account at a completely different bank, transferred every penny from my joint accounts. Thankfully, Amelia and I never got around to combining everything. The teller gave me this knowing look when I closed the accounts. Turns out her ex had cleaned out their joint account when he left, so she was extra careful, making sure everything was properly documented. Next was the phone. Did you know that if you're on a family plan, the primary account holder can see every number you call or text? Yeah, Mom had been using that to keep tabs on me for years. Went to a different carrier, got a new number, new phone, everything. The guy at the store helped me transfer all my important stuff without linking it to any of my old accounts. Social media was next. But before I nuked everything, I downloaded all my photos and important messages. Then I started blocking people. Ethan, Amelia, Mom, Dad, their friends, their families, everyone who'd chosen their side. Left Chloe blocked, but unfriended her. She was still on the fence, and I couldn't deal with that either. Changed my email. Created new social media accounts under a different name for work stuff. The apartment was trickier. I still had 4 months on the lease, but my landlord was surprisingly cool about it. Turns out he'd gone through something similar with his brother years ago. Let me break the lease with just 1 month's penalty. I started packing that night. Threw out anything Amelia and I had bought together. That couch she'd left behind, I posted it for free on Craigslist. College kids came and got it within an hour. I was supposed to start the Texas job in January, but I called my boss and told him I needed to start sooner. Made up some story about wanting to get settled before the holidays. He was stoked. Said they needed help ASAP anyway. Found an apartment in Houston through a guy at work. Signed the lease electronically and paid the deposit that day. The next week was a blur of packing and planning. I only told 2 people what I was doing. My best friend from the construction crew and my old foreman. They helped me load the U-Haul, no questions asked. My foreman even gave me a heads up that Mom had been calling the office, looking for me. The irony. While I was packing, Mom kept trying to arrange this big family meeting to work things out. Kept leaving these voicemails about how we needed to heal together and how running away from problems doesn't solve them. Rich, coming from the woman who'd been running from reality for years, pretending her precious golden child could do no wrong. The day I left, December 15th, was cold as hell, like frost on the windows, breath freezing in the air. Felt appropriate somehow. I got up at 4:00 a.m., loaded the last few boxes, and hit the road before the sun was up. Didn't leave a note. Didn't tell anyone goodbye. Just got in my truck with the U-Haul hitched to the back and started driving south. Mom must have noticed something was up pretty quick, because by the time I hit Kansas, my phone was blowing up with messages from random relatives. Apparently, she'd gone to my apartment and found it empty. Started calling everyone she could think of, crying about how I'd abandoned the family and how she was worried sick. I just kept driving. Somewhere in Oklahoma, I got a friend request on Instagram from an account I didn't recognize. It was Mom, trying to be sneaky. Her message was a piece of work. Why would you move without telling us? We're your family. We miss you and need you home for the holidays. We can work through this together. I replied with the most satisfying message I've ever written. You only have one son left. I'm not part of that family anymore. Then I blocked her new account and kept driving. Hit Texas that night. Checked into a hotel because I was too tired to deal with the apartment. Laid there in that generic hotel room, staring at the ceiling. And you know what? For the first time in months, I actually slept through the night. No stress dreams. No waking up angry. Just peace. Found out later that Mom had a complete meltdown when she read my message. Started calling everyone in the family, crying about how her baby boy was making rash decisions and how she'd failed as a mother. Yeah, no. You failed, Mom. Just not in the way you think. So there I was in Texas, actually starting to build a decent life for myself. Got promoted to project manager within 3 months. Turns out, when you're not dealing with constant family drama, you can actually focus on work. Bought myself a new F-150. The kind Ethan always wanted, but couldn't afford because artists don't care about material things. Started training MMA at this local gym. Figured I needed a healthy way to deal with all the anger. And I was finally sleeping through the night without waking up wanting to punch walls. Then it happened. It was a Wednesday in January when I got the call. I was on site, reviewing plans with my foreman, when my phone buzzed. Didn't recognize the number, but it had a Colorado area code. Almost didn't answer it. Kind of wish I hadn't. It was my Aunt Susan. Mom's sister? The only reasonable one in the family. She was crying, which immediately set off alarm bells because Aunt Susan never cries. Said Mom had been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. Terminal. 3 months to live, maybe less. Said Mom was asking for me. Wanted to make peace before. You know, I sat there in my truck for an hour after that call, just staring at nothing. Called my boss, told him I needed a few days. Booked a flight back to Colorado for the next morning. Even packed a suit because I thought, well, you know what I thought? The whole flight back, I was thinking about Mom. Yeah, she'd screwed up royally with the whole Ethan and Amelia situation, but she was still my mother. Started remembering all the good times. Her coming to my football games, making my favorite meals when I was sick, teaching me how to drive in that old Subaru. By the time the plane landed, I'd convinced myself that maybe this was a sign. Maybe we could fix things before it was too late. Aunt Susan picked me up at the airport. Should have noticed something was off when she wouldn't look me in the eye. Said Mom was at home. Wanted to see me right away. I walked into that house. The house I grew up in. The house I hadn't set foot in since Thanksgiving. And there they all were. Mom, Dad, Ethan, Amelia, Chloe, even Amelia's parents. No hospital bed. No medical equipment. Mom looking healthy as ever in her favorite gardening sweater. The silence was deafening. Mom started crying. Her fake crying. The kind where she makes sure everyone can see her tears. Saying how she had to do something to get me home. How she couldn't bear to have her family torn apart. Ethan and Amelia were holding hands. Looking guilty but also satisfied. Like they thought this was somehow going to fix everything. You know that moment in movies where the hero just snaps? That perfectly calm fury where everything becomes crystal clear? Yeah, that happened. I looked at my mother. Really looked at her. And saw her for what she was. This manipulative, toxic woman who'd spent my entire life enabling one son while destroying the other. You faked having cancer, I said. I said it so quietly that they had to lean in to hear me. You faked having terminal cancer to manipulate me into coming back. Mom tried to justify it. Started talking about how desperate times call for desperate measures and how a mother will do anything to keep her family together. Amelia actually nodded along, like this was somehow reasonable behavior. Ethan just stared at the floor, probably thinking about how he could turn this into material for his shitty poetry. Dad finally spoke up, trying to play peacemaker like always. Son, your mother just wants to fix things. We all miss you. Ethan and Amelia are engaged now, and we need to find a way to be a family again. That's when I lost it. Not violently. I was past that. Just started laughing. Couldn't stop. Here was my family, who'd betrayed me in every way possible, who'd lied about cancer, sitting there expecting me to just fall in line with their delusion. I looked at each of them in turn. You know what the funny thing is? I said, wiping tears from my eyes. I actually felt guilty on the plane. I was thinking about all the good memories, wondering if I'd been too harsh. But this, I gestured around the room. This is actually a gift. Because now I know, with absolute certainty, that I made the right choice cutting you all out of my life. Mom started wailing. Her real crying this time. The ugly kind she usually keeps private because it ruins her makeup. Ethan stood up, probably to try some brotherly bullshit, but I just held up my hand. The only reason I came back was because I thought my mother was dying, I said, my voice flat and cold. Congratulations, Mom. You just killed any chance of ever having a relationship with me again. Turned around and walked out. Could hear them calling after me. Mom's cries getting more hysterical by the second. Amelia actually tried to follow me, saying something about understanding my pain. I just kept walking. Aunt Susan was waiting in her car, crying for real this time. Turns out Mom had manipulated her too. Told her I was suicidal and needed an intervention. Said the cancer story was the only way to get me home. Classic Mom, using everyone's emotions against them. Got an Uber to the airport, caught the next flight back to Texas. Blocked every Colorado number in my phone except Aunt Susan's. She'd earned the right to stay connected after exposing Mom's manipulation. After the cancer stunt, I threw myself into work and building my new life in Texas. Started dating Sarah, this awesome girl I met at my MMA gym. She was different from Amelia in every way. Independent, straightforward, zero interest in playing family politics. She'd heard bits and pieces of my story through mutual friends but never pushed me to talk about it. Just accepted me as I was, baggage and all. Things with Sarah were going great. She was a trauma nurse, worked crazy hours like me, understood the value of hard work in a way Amelia never did. We'd been together almost a year when Christmas rolled around. Her family invited me to spend the holidays with them in Dallas. Normal family. Good people. Her dad was a retired firefighter who actually wanted to hear about my construction projects. Her mom kept trying to feed me more ham and wouldn't take no for an answer. It felt healthy. Real. Christmas Eve was perfect. Sarah's mom made this incredible fettuccine Alfredo, their family tradition. We exchanged gifts, watched old Christmas movies. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe I could have this kind of normal family life again. Should have known better. Christmas morning started out great, too. More food, more presents, more of that warm family feeling I'd been missing. Then Sarah's mom mentioned they were expecting some family friends for dinner. I didn't think much of it at first. Even helped set up extra chairs in the dining room. The doorbell rang around 4:00 p.m. Sarah's mom went to answer it, and I heard them before I saw them. My mother's voice, trying to sound sweet and concerned, like she always did when she had an audience. My whole body went cold. Turned around, and there they were. Mom, Dad, Chloe, Ethan, and Amelia, standing in the doorway like some fucked up Christmas card. That's when I saw Sarah's face. Not surprised. Just guilty. She'd known. She'd helped plan this whole thing. Turns out she'd been talking to my mother for months, coordinating this intervention because she thought she was helping. My mother had fed her some story about how worried they all were about me, how I was running from my problems, how I needed family support to heal properly. Mom started her usual routine. What they did was wrong, but your actions are unacceptable too. Like somehow me leaving town was equal to my brother sleeping with my fiancé for 2 years. Dad chimed in about how enough was enough, and how Ethan had suffered enough for his mistakes. Suffered? He got the girl, kept the family, and I'm the one who needed to get over it? Amelia was there, holding Ethan's hand, wearing this fancy new engagement ring. Pretty sure it was bought with the money from selling my old house. The one Mom had convinced them to invest in as a couple after I left. She tried to speak, probably to share some profound insight about how love works in mysterious ways, or whatever. Bullshit they'd rehearsed. I cut her off, looked right at Sarah and said, "Find your own way home. I'll pick up my things later." Simple. Quiet. Final. Everyone started talking at once. Sarah crying. Mom doing her theatrical gasping thing. Ethan trying to play peacemaker like he had any right. As I was leaving, Mom grabbed my arm. Started going on about how their family name was so important, how she'd raised me better than this. That's when I told her I'd already changed my last name. Months ago. You'd think I'd told her I'd committed murder. She actually collapsed into a chair, wailing about family legacy and tradition. The drive back to Houston was long and quiet. Had plenty of time to think about how stupid I'd been, trusting someone again. Sarah had called about 50 times that night, left voicemails about how she was just trying to help, how she thought bringing everyone together would fix things. Classic manipulation victim. My mother had played her just like she played everyone else. Got back to my apartment around 3:00 a.m. Looked at the Christmas tree Sarah and I had decorated together. All the presents still wrapped underneath. Took every gift she'd given me over the past year and put them in a box. Added the spare key she'd left, the toothbrush from my bathroom, everything. Dropped it all off at her place the next morning before she got back from Dallas. The worst part? Found out later that this whole Christmas intervention had been in the works for months. Sarah had been reporting back to my mother about everything. Where I was working, who I was hanging out with, if I was dating anyone else. She'd even helped them find my new address, which I'd kept private specifically to avoid this kind of shit. Mom had played Sarah perfectly. Shown her old family photos, told stories about how close we all used to be, painted this picture of a concerned mother just trying to help her troubled son. And Sarah, wanting to be the one who fixed everything, fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Then, about a year later, my company won this huge contract to demolish and rebuild a bunch of foreclosed properties in Colorado. Guess whose house was on that list? Yep, my parents' place. The one Mom had remortgaged to pay for Ethan and Amelia's dream wedding. The same house where she'd hosted all those family dinners. Where she'd orchestrated her little manipulations. Where she'd welcomed my brother and ex into my old room. I personally volunteered to oversee that demolition. Drove up there on a Tuesday morning. Watched them tear down every last brick. Mom showed up halfway through, probably tipped off by a neighbor. She looked old. Not just older, but worn down. Found out later she's working as a Walmart greeter now. First real job she's had in 30 years. Karma's got a sense of humor, I guess. But that's just the beginning. Through Chloe, who finally grew a spine and reached out to apologize, I got the full update on everyone's spectacular downfall. Ethan and Amelia's perfect marriage crashed and burned 6 months in. Turns out Amelia's got a type. She likes to cheat. Caught her with Ethan's best friend. The same guy who was his best man at their wedding. But here's the real kicker. She's pregnant with his kid. The same Amelia who couldn't have children is now carrying his ex-best friend's baby. Ethan didn't handle it well. Started drinking heavily. Lost his job at the music store after showing up drunk one too many times. He's living in Mom's basement now, in their crappy rental apartment, writing angsty songs about betrayal. The irony is completely lost on him. Mom and Dad finally separated. Turns out Mom had been lying about their finances for years, taking out credit cards in Dad's name to fund Ethan's projects and the wedding. Dad found out when they tried to refinance the house, and the bank laughed them out of the building. He's living with my aunt now. Finally started therapy, and actually called to apologize. Said he should have stood up to Mom years ago. Amelia's teaching career is over. Word got around about her history of sleeping with her students' relatives. Yeah, turns out Ethan wasn't the first, and no school district will touch her now. She's working at a call center, living with her new baby daddy in some rundown apartment complex. Her parents, who were so understanding about her following her heart with Ethan, won't even speak to her now. As for me, life's actually pretty good. Met this amazing woman named Molly at the grocery store about a year ago. She's nothing like Rachel or Sarah. She's direct, honest, and actually has a moral compass. We moved in together 6 months ago, and she's pregnant with our first kid. When she found out, she made it clear she didn't want any contact with my family. Even blocked them all on social media before I could ask. Mom somehow found out about the baby. Small town gossip never dies. And sent me a box of my old baby things with this long letter about family legacy and second chances. The baby stuff was mine, so I kept it. But the letter went straight in the trash. She even tried creating new social media accounts to reach me, posting about how much she misses her firstborn and how a child needs their grandmother. Blocked every single account. Chloe's getting married next month. She and Dad want to reconcile. No mom or Ethan involved. Said they've both been in therapy, working through their roles and everything that happened. Chloe admitted she was too weak to stand up to Mom back then, and Dad acknowledged how his passivity enabled everything. Molly says maybe it's time to consider letting them back in. But she's not pushing it. She's seen all the screenshots, read all the manipulative messages, knows the whole story. Says she'll support whatever I decide, but also reminds me that people can change if they do the work. The key word being if. Here's the thing though. Watching karma finally catch up with everyone has been surprisingly empty. I thought I'd feel satisfied seeing them all suffer. But mostly, I just feel relieved. Relieved that I got out. Relieved that I built my own life. Relieved that I broke the cycle. Watching my mother's former home reduced to rubble was less cathartic than I'd imagined. It felt like watching a symbol of pain be erased, but the memories, the scars, remain etched deep within me. I'm not sure if forgiveness is in my cards. I'm not sure if I even want it. But one thing is for sure, Liam, the man I was, the one defined by betrayal and family drama, is gone. In his place stands someone new. Someone forged in the fires of adversity. This new man is focused on his future, on the tiny life growing inside Molly. This baby, this new family is where my loyalty lies. It's a fresh start, a chance to create a legacy built on love, honesty, and respect. The ultrasound tech slathers the cold gel on Molly's belly, and I squeeze her hand, my heart a frantic drum solo against my ribs. Watching the grayscale image flicker to life, seeing the faint outline of our child, it's surreal, beautiful, terrifying. Everything looks perfect, the tech says, her voice calm and reassuring. Molly beams, her hand instinctively going to her stomach. Perfect, she echoes, her eyes shining. You're going to be a wonderful mom, I whisper, leaning in to kiss her temple. And she will be. She's everything my mother wasn't. Grounded, empathetic, fiercely protective. She'll create a home filled with love, not manipulation and hidden agendas. But even in this moment of pure joy, a shadow lingers. The weight of my past, the echoes of the family I left behind. Will I ever truly escape them? Will my child inherit the burden of their toxic legacy? Later that evening, after Molly's drifted off to sleep, exhausted from her first trimester symptoms, I find myself staring at the box of baby clothes Mom sent. They're neatly folded, a tangible reminder of a life I barely remember. There's the tiny blue romper I wore home from the hospital, the soft, knitted blanket my grandmother made, the worn teddy bear with one missing eye. Relics of a childhood that now feels like a distant, distorted dream. I pick up the bear, its fur matted and faded. A wave of unexpected emotion washes over me. Not fondness, not nostalgia, but a raw, aching sadness. For the boy who deserved better. For the boy who was constantly measured and found wanting. For the boy who lost his family to betrayal and lies. I clutched the bear tighter, a silent promise echoing in my mind. My child will never experience that pain. They will be loved unconditionally. They will be valued for who they are, not for who someone else wants them to be. The next morning, Chloe calls. It's been a few weeks since she and Dad floated the idea of me attending her wedding. Hey, she says, her voice tentative. Just checking in. Hey, I reply, keeping my tone neutral. How are you feeling? Any thoughts about the wedding? I hesitate. The idea of stepping back into that world, of facing Dad and Chloe, fills me with a complex mixture of dread and longing. I don't know, Chloe, I admit. It's a lot to process. I understand, she says softly. No pressure. We want you there, I know. Dad's really trying, Liam. He's a different person. Therapy's helping, I snort. Therapy after all this time? What's he going to do? Suddenly develop a backbone and stand up to Mom's ghost? Chloe sighs. It's not that simple, isn't it? She manipulated him for years, turned him into a doormat, and he just let it happen. He stood by while she destroyed my life. The bitterness is sharp, almost tangible. He knows, Chloe insists. He knows he messed up. He's trying to make amends. Amends don't erase the past, Chloe. No, they don't. But they can build a better future. For us. There's a long silence, broken only by the static on the line. I'll think about it, I finally say. Okay, Chloe replies, her voice hopeful. That's all I ask. After I hang up, I find Molly in the kitchen, making coffee. She watches me, her eyes knowing. Chloe? She asks. I nod. The wedding. She comes over and wraps her arms around me, resting her head against my chest. You don't have to do anything you're not ready for, she says. But don't let fear dictate your decisions. Sometimes, the hardest choices are the most rewarding. Her words resonate. Fear has been my constant companion for so long. Fear of betrayal. Fear of repeating the past. Fear of letting anyone get close. But Molly, she chipped away at those walls, brick by brick. She showed me that love can be a safe haven, not a battlefield. What do you think I should do? I ask, my voice barely a whisper. She pulls back, looking me in the eye. That's for you to decide, Liam. But I think you owe it to yourself to at least consider it, to see if there's a chance for healing, to put the past to rest once and for all. Her words are like a gentle nudge, a gentle push in the right direction. A few weeks later, I find myself standing in front of a mirror, adjusting my tie. It feels strange, putting on a suit again. It's been years since I've attended a wedding, since I've even bothered to dress up. The butterflies in my stomach are doing acrobatics. My hands are clammy. I feel like I'm about to walk into a lion's den. Molly walks in, her pregnant belly a gentle curve beneath her dress. She smiles, her eyes filled with love and encouragement. You look handsome, she says. Ready? I take a deep breath. As I'll ever be. The drive to Evergreen feels like a journey back in time. The familiar landscapes, the towering mountains, the crisp, clean air. It all stirs up memories, both good and bad. As we pull into the parking lot of the venue, a quaint little mountain lodge, my anxiety spikes. I grip the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles white. Molly places her hand on mine, her touch grounding. It's okay, she says. I'm here! We're in this together. We step out of the car, and the world seems to hold its breath. As we walk towards the entrance, I scan the crowd, searching for familiar faces. Then I see them. Chloe, standing near the doorway, her eyes lighting up when she sees me. Dad, standing beside her, his face etched with a mixture of hope and apprehension. They rush towards us, Chloe throwing her arms around me in a tight hug. You came! She exclaims, her voice filled with relief. I did, I reply, returning her hug. Dad steps forward, his gaze meeting mine. There's a vulnerability in his eyes that I've never seen before. Liam, he says, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for coming. Hey, Dad. He reaches out and takes my hand, his grip firm. I know I messed up. I'm so sorry for everything. His sincerity is palpable. It's not the hollow apology I've heard so many times before. It's a genuine expression of remorse. I know, I say, my voice softer. I know you're trying. He pulls me into a hug, a bare hug that squeezes the air out of my lungs. I love you, son, he whispers. Love you too, Dad. We step back, and Chloe gestures towards the entrance. Come on, she says. Let's get you inside. As we walk into the lodge, the atmosphere is warm and inviting. The air is filled with the scent of flowers and the murmur of conversation. I scan the room, taking in the faces of the guests. Most of them are strangers, friends and family of Chloe's fiancé, but then I see some familiar faces from my past. Aunts, uncles, cousins, people I haven't seen in years. They offer tentative smiles, nods of acknowledgement. It's awkward, uncomfortable. But there's also a sense of acceptance. Throughout the ceremony and reception, I find myself interacting with people, engaging in polite conversation. It's not easy. There are moments when I feel like an imposter, like I don't belong. But I push through it, reminding myself that I'm doing this for Chloe, for Dad, and for myself. The wedding is beautiful, a celebration of love and new beginnings. As I watch Chloe and her fiancé exchange vows, a wave of unexpected emotion washes over me. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for healing. Maybe, just maybe, I can build a new relationship with Dad and Chloe. Maybe, just maybe, I can finally put the past to rest. During the reception, Dad pulls me aside. I wanted to thank you again for coming, he says. It means the world to Chloe and me. It was the right thing to do, Dad, I reply. He smiles, a genuine smile that reaches his eyes. I'm proud of you, son. You've come a long way. So have you, Dad? He nods, his gaze thoughtful. It's been a long journey, but I think we're finally on the right track. We stand there in silence for a moment, just two men, father and son, finally finding their way back to each other. Then, Dad clears his throat. There's one more thing I wanted to say. What's that? He takes a deep breath. I know this doesn't change anything, but Mom's in assisted living now. My heart skips a beat. Assisted living? Yeah. After everything that happened, she couldn't cope. She's not doing well. I don't know what to say. Part of me feels a flicker of satisfaction. She finally got what she deserved. But another part of me feels nothing. I'm sorry to hear that, I say, my voice flat. She asked about you, Dad continues. She wanted to know if you were happy, I scoff. After everything she did, she has the nerve to ask if I'm happy. I know, Dad says, his voice weary. She's still Mom. There's a long silence. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to feel. I should get back to Molly, I finally say. Yeah, Dad replies. Of course, as I walk away, I can't help but wonder. Should I reach out to Mom? Should I visit her in assisted living? The thought fills me with dread. But there's also a nagging feeling that I can't ignore. She's still my mother, and no matter what she did, no matter how much she hurt me, she's still a part of my life. Later that evening, after the wedding is over and we're back in our hotel room, I tell Molly about my conversation with Dad. He said Mom's in assisted living, I say, my voice heavy, and that she asked about me. Molly listens patiently, her eyes filled with understanding. When I finish, she takes my hand and squeezes it gently. What are you going to do? She asks. I sigh. I don't know. Part of me wants to tell her to go to hell. Part of me feels like I should at least visit her. It's a tough decision, Molly says. But I think you need to do what feels right in your heart. What will give you peace? Peace? I scoff. I don't think I'll ever have peace when it comes to her. Maybe not, Molly admits. But maybe you can find some closure. Maybe you can finally let go of the anger and resentment. Her words resonate. Closure. That's what I've been searching for all these years. A way to put the past behind me and move on with my life. The next morning, after a restless night, I make a decision. I'm going to visit Mom. I don't tell Molly. I don't want to influence her opinion. This is something I need to do on my own. I drive to the assisted living facility, my heart pounding in my chest. As I walk through the sterile hallways, the air heavy with the scent of disinfectant, I feel a growing sense of unease. I reach Mom's room and hesitate outside the door, my hand hovering over the knob. What am I doing? Is this a mistake? Taking a deep breath, I finally push the door open and step inside. Mom is sitting in a chair by the window, her back to me. Her hair is thinner, her skin is paler, and she looks frail. Mom? I say, my voice barely a whisper. She slowly turns around, her eyes widening in surprise. Liam? She says, her voice raspy. Is that really you? Yeah, Mom. It's me. She stares at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, a flicker of something, regret, crosses her face. You came, she says, her voice barely audible. Yeah, Mom. I came. I walk over and sit in the chair across from her, the silence stretching between us like a taut wire. How are you feeling? I ask, forcing myself to be polite. Not good, she says, her voice weak. My health is failing. The doctors don't give me much longer. I nod, not knowing what to say. I wanted to apologize, she says, her gaze dropping to her lap. For everything. For how I treated you. For how I favored Ethan. For everything. Her words are halting, strained, but they sound sincere. I know, I say, my voice softer. I know you're sorry. I was so wrong, she continues, her eyes filling with tears. I was so blinded by my love for Ethan that I couldn't see what I was doing to you. I ruined your life, Liam. And I'll never forgive myself. It's okay, Mom, I say, even though it's not. It's in the past. I've moved on. But I haven't, she says, her voice cracking. I'm haunted by it every day. I can't sleep. I can't eat. All I can think about is how I failed you. I reach out and take her hand, her skin thin and papery beneath my touch. It's okay, Mom, I repeat, squeezing her hand gently. I forgive you. Her eyes widen and tears stream down her face. Really? She whispers. You really forgive me? Yeah, Mom. I do. The dam breaks and she sobs uncontrollably, her body shaking with grief. I sit there and hold her hand, letting her cry. It's not easy. It's painful. But it's also cathartic. As she cries, I think about everything that's happened. The betrayal, the lies, the pain. It's all still there, etched deep within me. But it doesn't have the same power anymore. I've built a new life. I've found love. I'm going to be a father. The past doesn't define me. After a while, Mom's sobs subside, and she looks up at me, her face red and swollen. Thank you, Liam, she says, her voice weak but sincere. Thank you for forgiving me. You're welcome, Mom, I reply. We sit there in silence for a few minutes, just looking at each other. Then Mom smiles. A small, fragile smile. I'm glad you're happy, she says. I'm glad you found someone who loves you. Me too, Mom, I reply. Tell Molly I said hello, she says. I will, I reply. I stand up to leave, and Mom reaches out and takes my hand again. I love you, Liam, she says. I love you too, Mom, I reply. I turn and walk out of the room, a weight lifted from my shoulders. As I walk through the hallways of the assisted living facility, I feel a sense of peace. I may never fully understand my mother's actions. I may never forget the pain she caused, but I can forgive. And in forgiving, I can finally be free. A few months later, Molly gives birth to a healthy baby boy. We name him James. after my grandfather, holding him in my arms for the first time, feeling his tiny hand grip my finger. I'm overwhelmed with love. He's perfect. He's my son, and I'm going to do everything in my power to protect him from the pain and darkness of my past. Mom passes away a few weeks after James is born. I attend the funeral with Dad and Chloe, the three of us standing together, united in grief. It's a small, simple service, attended by a few family members and friends. Ethan isn't there. He's too lost in his own world of self-pity and regret to face the reality of his mother's death. As I stand by her graveside, saying goodbye, I feel a sense of closure. Her story is over, and now it's time to write my own. Life isn't perfect. There are still challenges, still moments of doubt and fear. But I have Molly. I have James. I have a new family built on love, honesty, and respect, and that's all that matters. One evening, a few years later, James is sitting on my lap, listening to me read him a bedtime story. He's a curious, intelligent, and loving little boy, and he brings me more joy than I ever thought possible. As I finish the story, he looks up at me with his big, innocent eyes. "Dad," he says, "tell me about Grandma." My heart skips a beat. It's the first time he's ever asked about her. I hesitate, unsure of what to say. How do I explain the complexities of my relationship with my mother to a child? "Well," I say, "she was your grandma, and she loved me very much when I was a little boy." "Did you love her?" James asks. I pause, thinking about the question. The answer isn't simple. "Yes," I finally say. "I did love her, but sometimes she made mistakes, and those mistakes hurt me very much." "What kind of mistakes?" James asks, his brow furrowing. "That's a long story," I say. "Maybe I'll tell you about it when you're older." "Okay," James says, snuggling closer to me. "But I love you, Dad." "I love you too, buddy," I reply, kissing his forehead. As I tuck him into bed, I realize that's all that really matters. That he knows he's loved, that he knows he's safe, that he knows he can always count on me. The cycle stops here. The pain, the betrayal, the dysfunction, it all ends with me. James will grow up knowing a different kind of family. One built on open communication, mutual respect, and unwavering love. Years pass. James thrives. He excels in school, loves playing soccer, and has a kind heart. Molly and I work hard to create a nurturing environment, one where he feels safe to express his emotions and pursue his passions. We talk openly about feelings, about mistakes, about the importance of forgiveness. One day, James comes home from school looking pensive. "Dad," he says, "we were talking about families in class today. And some kids have really different families. Like some kids only have one parent, or their parents are divorced, or they have step-parents." I nod, knowing where this is going. "That's true, James. Families come in all shapes and sizes. Did you always have Mom as your family?" he asks. I take a deep breath. "No, buddy. Before I met your mom, I had a different family. But it wasn't a very healthy family. There was a lot of hurt and anger." He looks at me, his young face filled with concern. "Did they not love you?" "They loved me," I say, choosing my words carefully. "But sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes people make bad choices, even when they love you. And sometimes the best thing you can do is to create a new family, a healthier family." James considers this for a moment. "So, Mom and me are your new family? You and Mom are my everything," I say, pulling him into a hug. "You're my best family, the family I always dreamed of." He hugs me back tightly, and I feel a surge of gratitude. Gratitude for Molly, for James, for the life we've built together. Later that evening, I receive a message from Chloe. It's a picture of her and her wife, Sarah, not that Sarah, holding their newborn daughter. "We named her after Mom," Chloe writes. "She would have loved her." A pang of sadness hits me. I wonder what Mom would have thought of her great-granddaughter. Would she have finally learned from her mistakes? Would she have finally understood the importance of unconditional love? I sent Chloe a message back, congratulating her and telling her the baby is beautiful. I don't mention Mom. Some wounds are too deep to fully heal. Years continue to unfold, each one bringing new joys and new challenges. James graduates high school, gets accepted into his dream college, and starts his own journey of self-discovery. Molly and I watch him with pride, knowing we've given him the tools to navigate the world with kindness, integrity, and resilience. One day, James comes to me with a hesitant expression on his face. "Dad," he says, "I was doing some research for a school project, and I found some old articles about you and your family, about what happened with your brother and your fiancée. My heart sinks. I knew this day would come eventually. I just hoped it would be later." I take a deep breath. I know, James. It's a part of my past. A difficult part. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" he asks, his voice filled with hurt. "I wanted to protect you," I say. "I didn't want you to be burdened by my pain." "But it's your story, Dad," he says. "And I'm your son. I deserve to know." He's right. I spend the next few hours telling him everything. From the golden child to the betrayal to the disappearing act to the reconciliation and forgiveness. I don't sugarcoat anything. I tell him the truth as honestly and as openly as I can. He listens patiently, his expression changing from shock to sadness to anger to understanding. When I finish, he's silent for a long time. "Wow, Dad," he finally says. "That's a lot." "I know," I reply. "I'm so sorry you went through that," he says, reaching out to hug me. "You didn't deserve any of it." "Thank you, buddy," I say, my voice thick with emotion. "That means a lot, but you're okay now, right?" he asks. "You're happy?" "I'm more than okay," I say, smiling at him. "I'm happy. I have you and I have your mom, and that's all I need. I'm glad," he says. "And I'm proud of you, Dad, for surviving all that and for building such an amazing life." His words are like a balm to my soul. I realize that by sharing my story with him, I've not only given him a deeper understanding of myself, but I've also strengthened our bond. He's not burdened by my past. He's empowered by it. The legacy of pain ends with me. The legacy of love continues with him. And that, I realize, is the most important thing of all. The sun sets, casting a warm glow over the horizon. James and I sit together in comfortable silence, our hearts connected, our futures bright. The echoes of the past may still linger, but they no longer define me. I am Liam. I am a survivor. I am a father. And I am finally, truly free. The throwaway account, the digital scream, is no longer needed. My story, my real story, is being written every day in the laughter of my son, the love of my wife, and the peace in my heart. This isn't just about disappearing, it's about reappearing, stronger, wiser, and infinitely more grateful for the life I've been given. The end.